Well, hey there. So good to see you. Welcome back to the show. It's Josh Carey here. You're tuned into another episode of Energy Therapy News. And today, it's all about the pets and the animals. You know you love them. So does our guest, it turns out. We're joined by Dr. Tom Walsh. He is the founder and owner of Prime Pet Rehab. And I'm learning energy therapy is a vital, integral part of his practice. Let's dig into this, Dr. Tom. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Josh, for having me.
When we talk about energy therapy, first of all, I'm in. I love it. I use it all kinds of personally, but I'm excited to dig into how the pets are being helped and treated. So when we talk about energy therapy, what is it and what isn't it?
Right. So pulsed electromagnetic frequencies are electromagnetic wavelengths, which sounds complicated in science fiction, but really what it boils down to is this. These are invisible wavelengths that can be tuned. And when you tune them, it's just like tuning an old FM radio when you used to use the dial in the car to find the exact right station. And then you could listen to that station for a number of miles. Turns out that we learned several years ago that not only do cells, our individual cells, communicate chemically, but they also communicate electromagnetically. So they actually can talk to each other through this electromagnetic charge. And what's interesting, we've probably all felt this. Think about when you have walked through a spider web. So you know the spider web touches your arm, and instantly you feel like it's all over your whole body, right?
Yeah.
And so you start flailing around.
Terrible.
Right? Okay. Well, chemically, your body didn't change anything in that instant. So it has to happen faster for your nervous system to alert the rest of the hairs on your body to pay attention. And so we started to investigate that on those instantaneous reactions, what exactly is happening. And it turns on that each cell can communicate with the cell next to it electromagnetically. So take that and then go back over to Europe about 35 years ago, and they invented something in horse medicine, equine medicine. They invented something called a magnawave, which was the first electromagnetic frequency really tuned for any sort of animals. And if you know anything about horse people, they'll try anything to help their horse. And so it looked like a long sock, probably about 12 feet long, and you would drape it over the horse's shoulder, down the side, and then over the hips. And if you go onto YouTube or someplace like that and you look at electromagnetic therapy in horses, you're going to see some really crazy results. I mean, horses that were basically kind of on their last legs, and then all of a sudden, uh, their cells are being able to talk to each other again in a proper way for healing. And all of a sudden, you see, and a lot of this was kind of put to rest by, oh, well, that's just science fiction. That's just coincidence, that kind of thing. Like I said, it's been going on in Europe for more than 3 decades now. We're just now figuring it out in America that this is a viable therapy. And over the years, we have learned to actually tune it to different stations, if you will, along that the cells can understand. So you know that if you get a paper cut, your body instantly responds with bringing the clotting factors to that paper cut so you don't bleed out. And then you notice that after you've stopped the bleeding, that all of a sudden it'll start to get white around that. We know that those are the first line of healing factors. Not only is that chemically induced by our body being able to say and mobilize from our lymphatic system and other systems in our bodies to go fight that paper cut, but also there's an electromagnetic change that says that we need activity around that area. So think about it now, we've learned over these past 30 years different tuning at different levels allows for different stages of healing. So you can have post-surgical stuff that you're addressing to where it's immediate and we need to get the front line of healers right away. And then you've got chronic pain. So you can tune it for that. So that's a different type of ache and pain that can be helped with that pulse electromagnetic frequency. So PMF, we'll say that PMF for going, so we don't have to say that long word anymore. But that's but really that's really what it comes to it. I kind of fell into this backwards. I was a mobile vet going from vet office, doing physical therapy during COVID. I started it like most people do, right in the middle of a pandemic. So, and so these vet offices were empty, and I would go around and I would have these. I would go out to your car. We were all masked up like bandits. I would take your animal, your dog in. I'd be working on it, and I would bring it back out to your car. And the owners were like, this is fantastic. I'm loving the progress that we're making and all that good
Sure.
stuff. But what are you doing in there? And so I started having to, describe and tell you exactly what I'm doing and break it down. And I use all kinds of therapies like laser therapy, which is also known as photobiomodulation, but laser therapy, which is cold laser. And I also use electrical stimulation for neurological cases. We use cryotherapy. All of these things are tools in a physical therapist's tool belt. Now, if you go to physical therapy, they're going to be able to use these same tools.
Yeah.
Here, I feel like PMF makes a huge difference is synergistically, it throws all of these things in together. It's kind of like the glue that binds them together. And if we can get the cells talking through an electromagnetic field to where they're all saying the same thing. I don't have to be right over the certain spot that the animal, because the animal can't tell me where it's hurting. So
Right.
I think it's general shoulder or hip or knee or whatever, but to be able to spread this out over a larger area, and especially in the cases of chronic pain, this is where PMF really adds to all of those therapies. And I learned that having to do that by myself, I didn't have assistance. So I had to do multiple things at the same time, and I fell backwards into this idea of, wow, all of these things are working much better than if I did them individually. So when I'm, for example, having a PMF device on an animal with an ice pack and lasering at the same time. The animal is
Hmm.
feeling none of this. The animal's just thinking about whatever treat I'm giving it or whatever, or pet or affection or whatever, but they're not feeling anything, but the body is reacting. And we're seeing really dramatic
Yeah.
healing from that.
You mentioned science fiction when in fact this has been validated and continues to be proven over and over again, whether in humans or pets through science. Do I
Oh, yeah.
have that right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we are seeing more now. Now that we have realized that it is a true way that the cells communicate.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter whether that cell is a bone cell or whether it's muscle, tendon, nerve, the cells communicate this way. And I think we are just starting to scratch the surface. Honestly, Josh, I think that over the next 5 years, you're going to hear just like red light therapy has been like the latest thing, and they're selling it in Costco now and all
Hmm.
this stuff like that. I think you're going to hear more and more about PMF and the benefits. They're already starting to produce entire mats for people to lay down on, devices that you can wear. I feel like we're much too busy to have time to lay down on things, which is one of the reasons why I love portable devices that are, that can be either strapped to the animal or whatever. And I get a lot more use out of that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a portable device in a moment. But whether you're dealing with the human, and again, I've become a fan of PEMF personally. And human to human, one can argue, well, isn't it just placebo? But when we're talking about pets, that takes it right out of the equation. They either can walk or are feeling better or not. You experience that?
Absolutely, 100%. They're not going to lie to you. They're really great. Animals, especially dogs, are really great at compensating. But one of the things that I do is I know when they're compensating. I can feel it. I know what their gait pattern looks like. I know how they're hiding their pain. And
Mm.
once we identify that, and we really started out with reducing inflammation right off the bat. So this really helps with PMF and laser and ice therapy to where you're reducing inflammation across the entire body. And then we get them into where they are balanced underneath their paws are underneath their hips and underneath their shoulders. And that balance means that I'm no longer compensating to load my weight one way or another. Then we get into this idea of, okay, can we transfer that weight from side to side, front to back without taking any steps? And then eventually we move into mobility. But all along the way, they're telling you, if you know what to look for, they're telling you, yes, it hurts. No, it doesn't hurt. And so the other thing about animals is that if you show them that they can rely on that leg, let's say you've had a surgically repaired stifle or a knee. There's a very common thing. Cranial cruciate ligaments are commonplace surgeries in a lot of dogs. Okay. So this is just like an ACL in an athlete, right?
Hmm.
All right. So they get those repaired, they're very hesitant. What you'll often hear is they came home from surgery, they're toe touching, they're using it kind of like a cane, but they're bouncing along and wanting to go for long walks, even though and the owners say, I want them to rely on it more. You know, I spent this money for this
Yeah.
surgery. He doesn't seem to be trusting it. So you get them to where it doesn't hurt to move, so you reduce inflammation. Then you get them to where they're balanced and strength underneath their own legs like they should be. And then you show them that they can push against it without hurting. And all of a sudden, it's like a light switch comes on in a lot of these animals. The confidence starts to grow to where very often at that point the next thing we're doing is holding them back. I'm not ready for them to run yet. And they are like, oh, you're right. I can use this. And it doesn't hurt because they're not consciously thinking about it. What animals do is a very simple, if I test it and it doesn't work, I'm not going to test it again. I'll just use my other three legs. That's how resilient they are. But for us to be able to show them and to get them to test it again is so powerful. And I love seeing that transformation in these animals.
I want to bring in this device into the conversation. It looks like an MP3 player, but it's called the Vibe. I know we're both familiar with this. I was gifted this by the wonderful company, and immediately, like I keep saying, I didn't really have exposure. I was always open minded, but I never had exposure to it. It has 50 plus different menu items in a sense that you can pick from that target different ailments and needs. And you just select it, push play, put it in your pocket, and it's seemingly a very faint music pulse thing that's extracted. I don't even understand because I don't have to. I know I use it, I do it daily, and I feel great. How and when were you exposed to this?
So I found out about the vibe because I was looking um, in science about 6 to 12 months. It's just like computer technology. There's a lot of things that can happen. And I had some devices before that I was satisfied with, but I knew some advancements were coming along. And I reached out and talked to the owner of that company and I was able to try these devices. And all I can say is every device I've ever tried before, there's one that's very popular in the veterinary industry that is a loop that goes over their head like a collar kind of thing, and that works very, very well. I like that one a lot. There's another one that looks like a little spaceship. It's about a disc about that big, and it has Velcro on the back, and that can ride on a lot of different things. But um, what the owner of this company did is recognizing the power of um, the vagal nerve. So the vagal nerve is in your chest. So it's right about mid brachial plexus. On a dog, think about that. That would be almost horizontal to the ground. Okay, so on their lower chest right here, upper chest. All right. So recognizing that is a functional nerve center throughout our body to get information and part of what it does as the vagal nerve system in physiology. Recognizing that, they ingeniously devised a harness that it sits right here. So the device sits right here on their chest. And I have been amazed over the past few months uh, because I feel like I have seen easily 30 to 50% better effectiveness with this device simply because of where it sits and also the ability to tune it to the specific frequencies.
Yes.
So again, this is the way I can explain it to you is up until this point, I've kind of had Model Ts. And all of a sudden, I've got a Toyota Camry. You see what I'm saying? There's a big difference in being able to tune it properly and also position it properly on an animal to get the best effectiveness. So I've really been impressed with this device.
Yeah, likewise, as a human, for pets, what are the specific ailments that you have found effective?
Well, a lot of them you'll find familiar to yourself. Arthritis, chronic pain, wound healing, anxiety. You've got a lot of dogs
Mm,
that they come in and they are, I mean, I'll give you an example for anxiety. We've got two dogs that just recently came in 2 weeks ago, and one of them is so anxious and nervous that has to be muzzled for his own safety and for ours because he's so concerned about his leg. He just had surgery repair. It is hurting. He does not trust it whatsoever. He doesn't want you anywhere near his hind limb. Okay. We put this device on him and put it on the anxiety setting.
the vibe.
The vibe, yes. And put it on the anxiety setting. And within 5 to 7 minutes, he is now not pacing at the door, sitting down, laying down, waiting for us to do whatever we want to do. And it just opens up the imagination for you're like, wait a minute, is this going to work for thunderstorms? Is this going to work for, so you start to test it in those kind of things, in those kind of applications, because I think that it can have a real benefit for that. Now, it's irresponsible to say one device is going to cure everybody's problem and every dog's problem, right? However, having multiple options, 50 plus options to choose from on that device sure accelerates your odds to where you're going to find something that's going to work for them. So I just couldn't be happier with this device and what it's doing in my patients.
And for the record, this is not only meant for the home, it's not only for commercial use in your world for pets, but a person can get it for themselves and the same device, right? Like use it for you and your pet.
Well, you'd be stupid not to use it for yourself. I mean,
I know.
honestly, I mean, we're, especially here in veterinary medicine, we're not real fond of going to human doctors, just, and so we use stuff on ourselves all the time. You can tell I've got a little bit of a sinus infection right now. I'm using it on myself to help. They have a flu setting on
So
there,
true.
and so I'm using it on myself. And otherwise, I probably would have had to delay this podcast today.
If we're talking about something like the vibe for a person, for a pet, and the person listening, how far along are we into what's fully possible and capable? Have we just broached this, or are we pretty deep and this is as good as it gets?
I think we have just scratched the surface. I really do. I believe that there are variances of frequencies that we are still learning to play with. I think there's variances of power and what that means and how much is too much power. I don't think we've discovered that yet. I think that there's a sweet spot of how I think you're going to see. I really do believe in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to start coming up more and more in the conversation. It what's a little unnerving is because there's no vibration, there's no heat, there's no sound, there's
Yeah.
no nothing. It's You're going to have to really work with devices that can prove that something's going on. And the way that we prove that is an electromagnetic wave. You've seen those people touching those spheres in their hair, kind of doing the static and that kind of thing. When you get near an electromagnetic wave, some people are super sensitive and can feel certain things, but most of the time we need a device or something to show us.
Hmm.
So, the Vibe does come with a little test tube looking thing, and it's got a metal cube in it, and you hold it over the end, and you will see it vibrate. You go on, I think that that's probably one of the things we have to watch out for because there's going to be copycats, and there's going to be things that, especially on devices, that it's hard to know whether it's working or actually on or not. Is it doing what it says it's doing? And knowing that a device like that is including that in its package, say, look, I want to show you it's working, this is how you test it. So that kind of puts the money where the mouth is, kind of thing.
Yeah, I loved that tester because truth be told, without it, you're like, what is this doing? So it's like an insurance policy. It's like, relax, we're on your side, give
Exactly.
it a try. I know it's like a little test tube that you put it up and then the metal magnet vibrates and you're like, oh, okay, it's on. It's
Yeah,
working.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk to people about this, is there any pushback where they say, I don't really know. I'm not sure you should go that route.
I think that probably 3 to 5 years ago, you would have seen a lot more pushback. I think you're always going to get skeptics, and that's completely fine. But I think that we are moving. We know the state of healthcare in this country. We know that people are kind of fed up with just being pushed pills down their throat and not being really told what it's doing or how it's doing. And this is not a slam on the medical community. I love my doctor colleagues. It's just unfortunate that with big pharma and that kind of thing, it is what it is. And so I think people are looking more and more with an open eye to holistic and alternative medicines. I see that here if you can think about it, it's one thing to think about doing something on your own self. It's another thing to pay, a fair amount of money to have it done on your pet. And so physical therapy kind of suffered from that same idea. Oh, they're going to heal on their own. They're going to be okay. And more over the past 5 years or so, it's become like, no, if I need physical therapy when I have an operation, my pet's going to need the same thing. And I think so. I'm seeing the two lines of thought kind of to start line up. It's like, okay, we need to think outside the box of, oh, just a pill will take care of it, or, oh, just put him in a crate and rest him for 6 weeks, he'll be fine. We need to think outside that box because we can get better than that. And I'm seeing when I discuss it with owners, they are very excited about it. Um, for the most part, I would say they are intrigued the idea that, okay, this is something I've never heard of before, but wait a minute, you say it's been working in Europe for
Mm.
30 plus years. Why don't we have it over here? And then you kind of explain to them that that's not the way the FDA works. That's not the way, it's a whole big process to bring new devices and new things over here. And so I think that's why we've just started to scratch the surface.
What is the message to the pet parent listening today?
You know, the thing about your pet is, you know, that's your baby, and you know that you want to give it the very best care. And I think that we have come a long way from just the cheapest bag of dog food or cat food that we can find and hope for the best. We now know that, you know, vaccinations are important to keep them healthy. We know that exercise is important. We know that their environment inside you know, if you've got two cats and you introduce another cat, you better add another litter box because they're going to be fighting over it. Little things like that we've learned. And I think that all of those play into the idea that we are getting more sophisticated and more understanding about our pets' well-being, and that their health care going forward can be accentuated by a lot of different things. We have a number of folks in physical therapy with perfectly healthy dogs. These are owners being proactive to strengthen their animals and do things that you would think, oh, that would just be natural. But in reality, we're able to, for example, I've got several dogs that are agility dogs, and they participate in agility contests. They
Mhm.
come in here and they train once or twice a week with me, and we focus just like an athlete on certain things. So from healthy dogs all the way to dogs that have had operations or are suffering from neurological diseases, we're coming a long way in what we can do and what we can offer those animals. And I think that to have a device that not only is powerful enough to be able to use in a clinic, but also you could take it home with you and be able to use it there. And as an added bonus, be able to use it for yourself. To me, it's a win-win. And, you know, to know that you're not going to worry about side effects. There's no side effects with this situation. You're not going to over electromagnetic stimulate yourself. We are being bombarded every day by all sorts of radio waves and all sorts of rays. This is not going to hurt those cells. There's been no research, nothing that shows there's any cell degradation or any kind of problems with this sort of therapy.
I fully agree. For those interested, the Vibe is available through Resona Health. Online, it's resona.health. I use it daily. One setting, about 30 or so minutes, depending on the setting. I used the vagus nerve one earlier today. I've used the cold and flu. I've used the inflammation, heart health. I've used the all of them, many of them, I should say. And I just feel great. So how could you argue? Dr. Tom Walsh, the owner of Prime Pet Rehab in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I've learned.
That's
Excellent
right.
to meet you. And thanks for educating us on all things energy therapy for this episode of Energy Therapy News. Thank you kindly.